Great. We don't have a choice. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Hope all of you can hear me now. Yes. All right. So, are you able to see my screen now? So, rest of the people, those who can hear my voice, just type yes. We'll start it in another 2 minutes. We'll wait for a few more people to join. Yeah. So those who are not able to hear my voice, probably you need to check your settings, audio settings. If you are joining from your phone, by default, they are disabled. All right. So thank you all for joining today's session. It is the first day of our 3-day mini course program. And so to start with, let's discuss the agenda for today. Okay. There are going to be, before we start, okay, let me yeah. Before we start, let me start with some few acknowledgements. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for taking out time this afternoon and taking time out to attend this particular lesson. So thank you all of you for joining this session. And second thing I would like to thank is my wife. I'm a medical doctor, but she is the dietitian. She did her master's in nutrition, and she has been practicing nutrition for almost 20 years now. So whatever I learned about nutrition is because of her. And the next and the most important one is the team from NEP, Nutritionist Entrepreneurship Program. I am a Freedom Pass member of their program. Dr. Vishal and Teji, actually, it is one of their webinars that I learned, like I'm able to realize my strength of teaching, and I started doing webinars since then. So if you are a dietitian and wanted to improve your practice, I suggest you all go through their website, mynep.org. Okay, now, for those of you who are listening to my presentation for the first time, a brief introduction about me. So I am the founder of Dr. Gene Clinics. So Gene Clinics was started with the idea of creating a collaborative platform for dietitians. And second, I used to be a consultant in an endocrine hospital and a wellness center. I worked there for 15 months, about a year and a half back. And before that, I worked with a healthcare technology company. I helped develop a nutrition practicing software for this company, which is called Nutrify. Now it is known as G1.health. And I had my own organization, myself and my wife. We run our organization called Panisha Nutrition Works for almost a decade. And Initially after completing my MBBS, I worked as a faculty in a medical college. I used to teach fourth year medical students. So teaching has been passion all through my life. And the next is I worked as a doctor for a very short time. So I worked in Delhi, Central Delhi, for about 9 months or so. So, and academics wise, I'm a medical doctor. I'm not a dietitian like you all people, but yeah. So I did it from one of the best colleges in the country, Andhra Medical College. Right. So today's session, coming to today's session, it is broadly divided into 4 categories. So the first category, and we are going to wind this session in exactly 90 minutes. So we have another 80 minutes to complete these 4 sections. And the reason why I called this not as a masterclass or a webinar or anything, and I want it to be a mini course and as well as a workshop, is this course for the next 2 days, today and the next 2 days, is going to be totally interactive. Interactive in the sense, I'm not here to teach you. I can share some of the principles of holistic practice, but the more number of questions you ask and the more we interact, the better you gain a lot from this particular session. So I encourage all of you to come up with your own questions. After each section, we'll spend a few minutes on discussing a few of the questions or doubts, whatever you have regarding the topic we discussed. So the first topic is going to be, what is the difference? What exactly holistic nutrition practice is? So how is it different from clinical nutrition practice? So that's what we are going to discuss. And second thing is what it takes to be a holistic nutritionist. I mean, what kind of skill set you need, what kind of attitude one requires to become a holistic nutritionist. Third one is more of a practical thing, that we go through a case study. We'll discuss a case study and how, from a traditional or conventional clinical nutrition perspective, how is it different when a holistic practitioner approaches that case. We'll do a case study in the third segment. And the last one is the art of history taking. So how it is different from clinical and holistic perspective. These 4 we are going to discuss today. And once we complete this, if we still save some time, then we spend that time in answering some of the questions you might be having. So first thing is, I would like to have few volunteers who are willing to answer this question, right? What do you think is the difference between being a clinical nutritionist and a holistic practitioner? So those who are willing to answer, please switch on your video and you can answer it. Couple of people. What exactly do you think is holistic practice? Anyone? As I said, I mean, you need to volunteer. It cannot be a dull session. What do you think? Let me give you a lead. Most of the people who think holistic practice is something like a quackery, right? Anyone who did a small certificate course and selling some products or has seen some success with their weight, all these people, and they call themselves as holistic practitioner. I mean, I listened to these answers in our first workshop a lot. So what do you think is holistic practice? I need a couple of people to answer to start our session. Approach from body and mind, about spiritual, mental. I can see only first slide. The major difference, I think, is holistic. Yeah. So you need to come online and answer it for rest of the people. You are writing so many things on chat. but it will be distracting for me. Our body works as whole and not targeting to a particular organ, says Alfana Khatri. The major difference, I think, is holistic use, that what comes from our ancestors, the base which we are made up of. Yes. Approach from mind body by Sri Agrawani. I think we take Ayurveda in consideration while diet planning. Okay. So any other answers? Anyone would like to volunteer?
Yeah, sir, may I?
Yeah, Alfana, go ahead.
Yeah, so basically a holistic approach is something when we have to take the entire body into consideration, and lifestyle, it's your nutrition, and also your sleep, stress, and all other factors, and that's wherein you get the results from the patients and the clients.
Okay, excellent, excellent, Alfana. So one more person, I would like to hear from one more person, because I don't know what made you to come to this session, why, what made you to sign up for this program, and what is your expectation? What do you think exactly is holistic nutrition? Anyone, one more person?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Yasmin here.
Yeah.
I think holistic nutrition in clinical nutrition will focus on like for diabetes, a diabetic diet with medications and all. And in holistic, I think you'll be working so that they won't be using medications further and they'll be treating themselves with the diet.
Right.
I think getting rid of medication, the allopathic medications is the thing here.
Okay.
That's my take on it.
Right.
That's it, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for volunteering. Right. So the first difference I would like to talk about when it comes to holistic practice is clinical nutrition speaks about or talks about treating a disease. Yes. In your clinical nutrition textbook, say for example, you're planning a diet for diabetes. Okay. So, or you're planning a diet for obesity, or you're planning a diet for a health condition like pregnancy or a lactating mother. Okay. Or you're planning a diet for people suffering with cancer. Okay. So here the difference is, are you able to see this transition in my slides? Yeah. Okay. Right. Thank you. So let me explain what do I mean by this. So now you guys can see the whiteboard, right? Yes. Okay. So when I say disease and disease versus the person. So clinical nutrition treats the disease, attacks the disease. But holistic nutrition treats the person who is suffering with the disease. Why is this important? Because attacking the disease comes from the conventional allopathic practice. Yes. So earlier days, whenever you have diseases like say malaria. So malaria, we know what causes malaria, and the symptoms include fever, chills. So malaria, if is the outcome, the cause is Plasmodium. So it could be Plasmodium, any species of Plasmodium carried by, injected into our body by a mosquito. So we clearly know the cause and we try to kill this cause so that malaria is gone from our body. Right? So that is the reason why if we are treating a disease, right, with a medication, so we have to take away the causative factor here. So to understand it much better, let us take an example of diabetes mellitus. So in diabetes mellitus, people have a symptom of high sugar level. Okay, so now are you able to see the whiteboard? Yeah.
Yes.
So in type 2 diabetes mellitus or type 1, there is a symptom of high sugar level, and we are trying to decrease this high sugar level, right, by using certain kinds of medications. Okay, now this diabetes mellitus, what do you think is the cause? Anyone? What is the cause of diabetes?
Maybe the gene,
Yeah, go ahead.
lifestyle.
Yeah, lifestyle is one.
It can be stress also,
Stress also.
or dietary, poor dietary habits.
Poor dietary habits, yes.
Metabolic distress.
So this board is better or the earlier one?
Earlier
So,
one.
Earlier.
lifestyle, stress, metabolic distress. Okay. What else?
Obesity.
Heredity.
Okay. Hereditary.
Poor eating habits.
Insulin resistance.
Poor nutrition. Yes.
Alcoholism.
Alcohol. Yeah.
Insulin resistance.
Insulin resistance, and shall we call this metabolic distress as well? Okay. Right.
Lack of physical activity.
Yes. Physical activity, lack of physical activity.
Poor sleeping pattern.
Yes. Lifestyle. One of the thing is like poor sleep. You're able to see my board, right? Whiteboard?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So,
yes.
right. So if you go to a medical doctor, right, an MBBS, not, you don't require even to go to an MD, and ask him what is the cause. And you go to an MD, a general medicine, a physician, a specialist physician, ask him what is the cause of diabetes. And you go to a diabetes specialist, a super specialist, go to an endocrinologist, ask him what is the cause of diabetes mellitus, right? All of them, they say only one thing. The cause of diabetes is idiopathic. What does it mean, idiopathic?
An unknown cause.
Yeah, it is the easiest way or respectable way of saying we don't know the cause, right? We are still exploring. You got what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So whatever you said, all of them, right? They are right, but they are called what? They are called not as the cause, but they are called risk factors. Yes or no? Okay. So the cause of diabetes mellitus is still unknown. Okay. People are still exploring. So if people are unable to sleep properly, will it lead to diabetes mellitus? The answer is yes. In some people, answer is no, because not all sleepless people, they end up having diabetes mellitus. Not all diabetes people who are end up having poor sleep, right? People who are not doing physical activity, will all of them develop diabetes mellitus? They are at risk of developing diabetes. So coming back to our issue, we have diabetes mellitus and we have symptoms like increased sugar levels, and there are some causes. We don't know the causes. Whatever you mentioned, all of them are called risk factors. These are all risk factors. But the treatment we are employing is trying to attack the increased sugar level so that the diabetes mellitus or the sugar levels, they become normal. but we are not looking into the cause of the cause, right? We don't know what is causing. We are looking at the risk factors. Okay. Say, for example, whatever you mentioned till now, all of them are valid points. Okay. Here comes the difference between disease versus the person. So here is a man. Okay. So he has got a certain lifestyle. He has got certain eating habits and physical activity, sleeping pattern, okay, and certain amount of stress levels. So all of them over a period of time, it is not happening in one day, over a period of time, this resulted in probably obesity, and which in turn leads to insulin resistance, which is pre-diabetes, and finally led to our diabetes mellitus. So we are looking at the person who is having these eating habits or lack of physical activity, why he's having poor sleep and increased stress levels. A holistic nutritionist will look into all these factors, just not how much of sugar level he is having right now or what are the complications that they are facing. So this is the difference between going approaching disease versus a person. Okay. Now, the next point is drugs versus the body. Here, so what do I mean by drugs versus the body? The medical doctor is trying to treat the condition with drugs, and the nutritionist try to treat the condition with medical nutrition therapy. But whereas the holistic practitioner, what he does is this holistic process, they look at the body and try to see why the body allowed to have this condition, right? Why there is increased immunity, for example, or why there is imbalance in their hormonal levels. What caused it? Because the simple, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. So what do you think is the, I'll ask you a question like this. If there is a small scratch on your hand, right? You cut your hand, a very small cut, and you go to a nurse because it is not a deep cut, you don't require a doctor. So once you go to a doctor or a nurse, what they do? They give you a TT injection, and they give you what we call as an antibiotic and a painkiller, right? These are the three things that when being administered when we have this small cut in our hand. My question is, out of TT, that is tetanus toxoid, and antibiotic and a painkiller, which three of these medications are actually healing your body or your wound or cut and repairing your body back to its normal shape? Which three of these drugs helps in that? TT, antibiotic, or painkiller? I'm looking for an answer. I asked you a question. Yes.
White blood cells.
White blood cells. But we are not taking white blood cells, right? We are taking these three medications.
TT, sir, TT.
TT is to prevent tetanus infection. Okay. Antibiotic is to prevent infection caused by that opening of that wound. And painkiller is painkiller. So most of you are right, none of them. But still, we are taking those medications, right? So here there are 2 points that we need to understand. What are they? So none of the medication that you are taking is going to help you, but still you are taking that. So the body knows how to repair itself, right? And what is the medication that is doing? It creating an environment devoid of any kind of further spread of infection or fresh chances of infecting again. So this is what the medication is doing. But the repair and regeneration is done by the body. Okay. The body knows how to heal itself. So a holistic practitioner will look at the repair and regenerative capacities of the body. Okay. Human life, it starts from where? Human life starts with a single cell. Is it not? In mother's womb, a single cell. It divides into 2 and 2 into 4, 4 into a bunch of cells in few days. And finally, we have a full-fledged human body. So how many cells do we have approximately? Close to 100 trillion cells. 1 trillion is 1 lakh crore. So 100 lakh crores of cells, they come from this single cell and form complex organs like an eye, right? A heart, a kidney, right? They know how to produce enzymes, hormones, how to make proteins. Body knows everything. It created all this intelligence that is there in this single cell is there in our 100 trillion cells. But somehow the body is not able to, the body knows how to make itself in the first place, but why it is unable to repair and regenerate? Isn't it an interesting question? How frequently do we ask this? We don't know how to create a pancreas. Yes, we never designed a pancreas, do we? And we don't know how to make an insulin. Okay, we don't know. And how much insulin to produce and all this stuff, none of us know anything about it, but body knows how much insulin to produce and how to make an insulin receptor and how to process the metabolic activities that are happening in our body. Is it not? So the point here is body knows how to repair, it knows how to make, but it knows also how to repair. But the real problem is something else is in the play. Something else is stopping this repair and regeneration process. The holistic practitioner will look into those factors. What exactly is wrong with this person's regenerative capacity and repairing capacity? How do we address them? So that is what holistic practice is all about. And the next one is management versus healing. So again, the same point. Have you ever come across a diabetic patient being treated exclusively by allopathic practice, completely free from diabetes? How many cases have we seen them? Right? Hardly any. I mean, you can count them on your fingertips in your own experience. So not until few years back, all right, reversing diabetes is considered a crime. So I was banned from Facebook because I posted a workshop, reversing diabetes. Right, few years back. I think it is somewhere around 2015 or 16. Okay, Facebook literally blocked my account. I mean, this is against our policies. So just 3 to 4 years back, reversing diabetes is not considered a fact at all. So I have to write to Facebook again that I did it by mistake and all this stuff. Now we are talking about reversing diabetes so freely, right? There are courses available and everybody is claiming that they are able to reverse diabetes because, right, diabetes or any other lifestyle disease, they cannot be managed. But right now, everything is being managed, not completely healed. So the holistic perspective helps you identify the healing processes of our body. And next one is tubular versus total vision. Let me take another moment to explain you what I mean by tubular and uh, holistic vision. Okay, so what is this tubular vision, and what is this holistic or total perspective? So we know that if this is a cell in our body and there is this insulin receptor, and insulin as a hormone should come and talk to this receptor, and this should open glucose channels so that glucose that is there in our capillaries, okay, so from here it should enter into the cell. What the conventional allopathy or the traditional science taught us is they observed increased glucose levels and they studied glucose metabolism and observed that the insulin is not produced enough, or insulin is defective. So insulin is there. So this we call as type 1 and this we call as type 2. We identified that this is the main player, key player in establishment or the manifestation of diabetes. So in people who have defective or underproduction of insulin, we give them insulin injections. There is no other go for that. But in type 2 diabetes, because the insulin is either defunct, dysfunctional, or is not produced in enough quantities, what we did, so we tried different treatments. So what else we can do so that cell uptake of glucose increases? So we try to squeeze pancreas to produce more insulin instead of understanding what caused the pancreas to produce less insulin in the first place, right? And the number of cell receptors in the target cell have come down. We never looked into why the number of cells that have come down and the number of mitochondria that are there in the target cells have come down. But we identified that insulin to be the main culprit and we try to look into. Say, for example, in a reaction, so A leads to B, B leads to C, C leads to D. So in this reaction, there is a problem with this area and we try to fix it. Either you replace it or you provide an alternative. Okay, insulin is not coming in, we'll give you artificial insulin. That is only looking at, so this is called tubular vision. So from here, okay, we are seeing only this particular part. We are not looking a person in it total. But as a holistic practitioner, we look into why the insulin receptors on a cell have come down. Insulin receptors in the cell have come down because the demand is less by the cell. Why there is decreased demand? Because there is decreased activity. Okay, so God has given us legs to walk and run, but people have become sedentary, right? Even to go to the second floor, people use elevator these days. Yes or no? Right? Why 10th floor people are utilizing elevator? Just because we are in second floor, can't we use? I mean, this is the logic, unfortunately, most of the Indians use for the elevator. Elevator is designed to save time, not energy. Okay, human beings can climb Mount Everest. 10th floor is not difficult. 5th floor is not difficult to climb. So there is nothing wrong with climbing steps. Okay, but this habit repeated over a period of time says that, okay, leg muscles which consume lot of energy, this lack of activity resulted in decreased demand. So decreased demand means decreased demand for glucose. So when glucose is required in less quantity, there will be less expression of insulin receptors. Everything is connected over here. The holistic practitioner try to explain this process to their concerned client. Okay, you require, let's say, 1500 calories a day, but you eat at least 2500 calories a day, thinking that just because you can afford it. And this is happening every day. And insulin, which is supposed to take care of the sugar levels in your body, because you are not doing physical activity, on top of that, it is provided flooded with a lot of sugar, don't know what to do, and it is making a lot of lipid in our body, which results in obesity. Okay, so in tubular vision, the things that we are doing, okay, the things that we are doing in tubular vision is, we see as if medication, right, giving a right kind of medication is all that is going to solve the problem. No, it is not the medication, but the lifestyle factors that are involved in that, that is making a lot of difference, right? Am I making am I making myself clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And the next point is difference between diagnosis and cause of the cause. In most of the forums, right, I've been in Facebook and Quora and rest of the times, and when people post their questions, what they say is, I am diagnosed with diabetes, what should I eat? That is the biggest problem. So people are concerned with diagnosis. I have seen so many people, I mean, some of the dietitians, they ask me, sir, what should I give to a person suffering with IBS? That's a very good question. But what caused IBS, right? In IBS is not, what do you say, a well-defined entity. What should I eat for PCOD? That is the dumbest question a dietitian can ask. People are free to ask those questions because they don't know the disease process. But a dietitian should never say PCOD diet. No, there is no PCOD diet. There is no hypothyroidism diet. There is no diabetic diet. Okay, so we have to look for the cause of the cause. What made the disease to appear in this individual? And in that, we have a choice. I mean, out of respect for my own community, I said doctor and healer here, doctor versus healer. But here, doctor, what I mean by doctor here is a disease manager. Doctor is trained. I mean, all of us as doctors, we are trained in handling a particular discomfort or disease. We are disease managers, right? We don't know how to promote health or to cultivate health, to nurture health. But as a dietitian, because you are prescribing diet, you are making lifestyle changes, you are increasing the chances of healing in an individual. That means you can be a healer. So you can be a manager, but you'll not be managing disease, but you'll be managing their health. Once you improve their health of your patient, so that is how you become a better healer. So this is what is all about holistic nutrition practice, the difference between just being a holistic practitioner and being a clinical nutritionist. So this is not what I have come up with, or my wife Mamta has come up with, but this is what the giants, people who started, considered father of medicine, for example, Hippocrates. I would rather see what kind of a person has a disease than what kind of a disease a person has. Makes a lot of sense. Thousands of years back, that is why he is considered father of medicine. He says the person who is having disease is more important than the disease a person has. So why did he contract this illness? Why did he is having that imbalance in his body? So that we need to look into. And even very recently, by Dr. William Osler, who is considered father of modern medicine. What he said is, what's happening in a patient's mind is more important than what a microbe is doing in his lungs. He's talking about a diabetic patient here. Guys, those of you who have their speakers on, please mute yourself. Yes. So this is what William Osler says. So he was treating tuberculosis patients, and we all know tuberculosis is caused by tubercle bacillus, Mycobacterium tuberculosis bacillus. But he says the mindset of the person who is suffering with tuberculosis is more important than what this bacillus or the bacteria is doing in his. So the person who is having illness is more important, and that's what holistic nutritionist is dealing with on day-to-day basis. So the same man, William Osler, also says another thing. A good doctor treats the disease, but a great doctor treats the person. Similarly, a good dietitian addresses a clinical condition, but a great dietitian will address the person who is having the illness. So being a holistic nutritionist is, apart from having, I know all of you are very good at your clinical practice, but if you add this behavioral sciences or life coach principles to your practice, from being a good dietitian, you have the chance of becoming a great dietitian. So this concludes our first session. So I would like to open the session for a discussion now. So you may ask whatever questions you have in this first segment. We have 3 more segments to cover in the next 45 minutes. Yeah, come on everyone. Any doubts till now, whatever we have discussed? Please go ahead. We already half of our session is over.
Hi, sir.
Yeah, please introduce yourself and go ahead with your question.
Dietitian Simran here. I actually I don't have any doubts. It was pretty clear and very good class until now, the first session. I just want to ask, do you have any other proper course apart from this 3-day mini course? Because I really want to learn about all these things.
Yeah, Simran, definitely. I mean, I have full course. I mean, when we did last month, so there are like close to 40 people who attended, and all of them, they joined and signed up and actually going through the full course classes. I'll give you the details, right? Once the session is over, you can ping me. That I'll do. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Anyone? Any feedback till now? I mean, how you are feeling about the class? Is the pace good? Are you able to get what I'm trying to say? Should I slow down or should I pick up the pace? Or is it too slow? Give me some feedback, people, please. So that, I mean, I'm unable to see, I'm talking to my camera and I don't know what your reactions are. It's just perfect, good session. Everything is great. So far, good. Right. So now let's get to our second topic. Okay. So why are we doing this? As I said, I mean, I'll just take a couple of minutes to explain you why we are doing this. So me and my wife Mamta, when we started this, and along with one of our friends, when we started this clinic, and so Mamta is more of a perfectionist, and she is a gold medalist, and so she wanted to help her clients so bad. I mean, she don't want to see any kind of failures, but even though the patient is following everything, okay. Even though the patient is following everything to the letter, following the diet perfectly, doing physical activity, and they lose certain weight, but still they are unable to lose weight further. I mean, they reached a weight loss plateau, or I mean, their condition is not improving. So this led to further exploration, and she started reading and exploring what else could be the reasons. And that's how our exploration started. And she is able to see that the behavioral patterns has got to do with their conditioning or their brought up and their particular habits. So she started learning about how people develop habits and how to change those habits. And this learning led to reading. I mean, I think she might have read close to 1500 plus books by now. Okay, she reads even today, at least in a week, she reads at least 5 to 6 books, a minimum, even today, right? So that's how voracious reader she has become. I mean, she started in 2050, in 2005, started reading and exploring. So whatever we learn, I mean, we started applying these principles in this last 15, 17 years of our practice together. And we have seen extraordinary results. And we thought like, I mean, why don't we share whatever we learned, these principles, these mind-body techniques, and these behavioral science principles, holistic principles, with people, so that they can also apply this to their people. And personally also, and we used to face a lot of issues. If that is one reason, another reason is we used to face a lot of issues, like we were very particular about who we hire as our junior dietitians, our junior colleagues. So we used to do a lot of interviews and we used to reject so many people. And finally, we zero in on a couple of people and we train them. We invest a lot of time and how to counsel and how to talk to patient, how to do the follow-ups and how to document everything. And suddenly they come one day and say that my marriage is fixed, I'm not allowed to work. So some of the times Mamata used to cry when these people, they leave. Okay. And she used to feel so angry with the system. Like if a lady doctor is getting married, she is not leaving her profession. Okay. If a lady software engineer is getting married, she is not asked to leave her profession. Or a government official, a woman is getting married, she is not asked to. But why a dietitian? Why suddenly they think that the nutrition subject and all? So at that time, she decided that, I mean, if as dietitians we can show results and people are willing to pay us, and if a dietitian after coming out from her post graduation and claim a job which guarantees at least 50,000 a month initially, and people are actually looking for that kind of service, so then nobody would ask them and they have the freedom to practice. So this was her passion. And finally I think we reached a stage where you can earn easily 50,000, 1 lakh per month. Given the conditions, the time is ripe. I thought like we should be sharing, being a holistic practitioner that can fetch you a lot of money. So that is another reason why we are doing this. Okay. So now coming to the second part, what it takes to be a dietitian. There are basically three things. One is honest curiosity. What do I mean by honest curiosity? Okay. Now, to be a holistic practitioner, all you need is about learning. Okay. So let me explain with the help of a small diagram what honest curiosity is. So people, they say like, okay, I am doing a certificate course in diabetes or in some gastric health or in other thing, and I have a certificate, that means I am qualified to answer these cases. No, let me tell you why. Let's say if this is the age of the patient, let's say we start with 20 years, so 40, 60 and 80, something like that. And here is the duration of the illness. Let's say this is 1 year, this is like, let's say 3 years, this is 5 years, 7 years, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13 plus years. A person who is 25 years of age, right, and having diabetes for 3 years is here in the graph. A person who is 58 years of age and having diabetes for about 13 years is here. Do you think both are same? And if you add another dimension to this, complications. Okay, so if you look at this three-dimensional model, right? People, this person, complications wise, same 58-year-old, 13 years of diabetes. One person has complications and one person has zero complication. Do you think both are same? They are not, right? That means you cannot see two same diabetic patients in your life. Every person comes with their unique story. Okay, so I always tell my colleagues or my junior colleagues or trainees who get trained under me that every patient coming to you is a textbook. Just like how you read your textbook to acquire knowledge, read your patient just like that, because everyone is coming with a different cause, right? They are giving you knowledge. On top of that, they are paying you to teach you. So imagine a textbook, by reading it, you are getting money. That is your patients. So curiosity means you should be knowing what is the cause out of so many risk factors. What are the causes in this particular case? So what is his story? You need to have that genuine curiosity towards people. Okay. But what we are seeing, I know some of the corporate hospitals, they ask their dietitians to see 150 or 100 plus patients in a day. What are they doing? They are giving handouts. What kind of counseling is this? What kind of job is this? Are you adding any value? Why do you need BSc or MSc post graduation, going to university, handing out pamphlets, eat this, don't eat this? You don't require a master's degree to do that job, right? This is not the kind of job you're supposed to do. You need to develop a genuine curiosity. What kind of eating habits this person has? And how did he develop certain tastes for certain foods? And what kind of nutrients are there in this food and what are not there in his food? These are the kind of questions that you should be. And what is the amount of level of stress he is experiencing? What kind of job he is doing? What are his passions, interests? So you should be having genuine curiosity. That is the first thing. If you don't like people, and if you are not curious about learning the process of disease progression in a person, this job is not for you. And mind you, to give a diet plan, now you have tools, artificial intelligent tools. They no longer require you as a dietitian, because all those calculations machines will do perfectly more than you can, right? There are so many apps and so many companies are coming up with like, just you give us your data and your medical reports and we'll give you the perfect diet. Do you think that it will work? It will never work, right? I'll write it to you, it will never work, right? You may see some temporary result, but ultimate transformation happens with one-on-one interaction, right? One-on-one coaching. So that is the first thing you need to have as a holistic practitioner, as one of the important traits: honest curiosity towards your patient's condition, to learn more about their problem. And second important thing is being non-judgmental. This is very, very, very important trait that one should possess in order to be a successful and a great holistic practitioner. What is meant by being non-judgmental? See, if a person comes to you, right, let's say with obesity, we have some preconceived notions. Yes or no? That ye to zyada kha raha hai. Yes? Do we have that particular kind of judgment or opinion about people?
Yes.
We
Sometimes.
all have.
Yeah.
Most of us have.
Yes.
Lack of
Yes.
physical activity. okay, or something else. So we need to have a non-judgmental approach. See, you are distracting me. Please, I don't have a co-host with me. So those who are typing and chat, instead typing on chat and distracting me, please, you can come online and you can say yes or whatever you want to say. Okay, thank you. So what do I mean by non-judgmental? That means, you see, when you meet some people, you feel like sharing anything, right? So let me put it in another way. What do you think you like most in your best friend? Why someone is your best friend? What quality do you like in them?
Maybe the similar qualities what I share with her. Where
Yeah, similar qualities. What else? What else makes you someone your best friend?
Availability of time of that person,
Availability of the time, excellent.
listening quality,
Listening quality,
Comfortability.
yes, comfortable.
comfortable, being comfortable. Any other thing? I mean, what makes someone your best friend? What is the most?
So my friend knows me very well and she don't judge me.
understanding between both of us.
So she won't judge you and understand you. Yeah.
Honest behavior.
See, the best friend
Understanding.
is someone with whom you don't have any inhibitions, right? You speak whatever nonsense you want to speak. Got it? Do you agree with me on this?
Yes, sir. Where we can
You
be
are so
ourselves.
comfortable.
Yes, sir.
Whatever
Yes, sir.
nonsense, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be productive or useful or any other thing. She or he is your best friend because you feel so comfortable, or without fearing any kind of judgment, you can behave with them whatever way you want to. Yeah, without the fear of getting judged. That is the reason why we share every simple detail or sweet nothings or whatever you want to call them with our friends. Okay, because they don't hold anything against you. The moment you see or you sense that these people are taking it to their heart, you are not comfortable, because you can lie with your words, but you cannot lie with your body and with your emotions, right? The body language reflects a person's behavior. The moment somebody walks to your clinic for any kind of advice, how you receive them and how you listen to their story and how much attention you are paying to. अरे ये तो सिर खा रहा है मेरा patient, आगे बोलते. So this is not the attitude. Remember, every patient is unique, right? There are no, so to understand what uniqueness is all about, can you identify a person who is an exact replica of you? That means a person who is of same age, height, weight, color, the way you walk, talks, behaves, smiles, laughs, right? Is there any other person in this entire universe, a person just like you?
No.
Impossible. There was never before and there is never going to be either. That means you are 1 in 730 crore, a designer piece. You have a certain purpose in this world. Agree with me?
Agreed.
Yeah. So similarly, the patient who has come to you with a lot of pain, look at the number of stages they have to cross to reach out to you, right? Unless and otherwise, they are facing a severe problem. If it is manageable, they will try all the home remedies, then WhatsApp University, then YouTube University, and family and friends university. They cross all those things and they go to finally a doctor. And if that is also not working, they will postpone visiting a dietitian for years. And finally, they made it to your office or your clinic or for your consultation. And what you offer them is judgment, right? So ऐसा ही होता है. So you should change. This is wrong. You should not eat this. You should not do that. People say, "Ye mat khao." That's where you lost the complete game. Instead of saying, right? Okay, there is nothing wrong having a sweet tooth. There is nothing wrong craving for ice creams or chips or chocolates, right? If you are a holistic practitioner, you will understand why the brain is craving for that particular sugar. You know why teenagers crave for this ice cream, chocolates, and soft drinks? Because they are in a heightened state of stress response. When adrenaline and cortisol and other hormones are high, they need instant energy to keep that energy levels. That's why they go for Red Bulls. They go for, I mean, if those are boys, they go for beer or alcohol. They want to keep themselves in that particular high. Instead of saying, ye band karo, wo band karo, ye galat hai, ye. So you totally lost it. But instead, you need to ask them, it is completely normal to have cravings for certain foods. But I would like to know why you crave for that particular food. How did it start? When did it start? So shall we discuss? That's how you make them comfortable. And they will see for the first time in their life, are a dietitian, ye to khana band karwati hai. No, you should give them an impression, everything is fine. If this is your habit, so that's what being non-judgmental is. And you don't say it on their face and laugh on their back. Again, you are contradicting your own work, right? You don't have to fake it. You have to, as I said, you have to have genuine curiosity to solve their problem, to understand them. And second thing is being non-judgmental. Okay, they have come to you with the expectation that you will find a solution. They don't want judgment from you. They know that their life is like already screwed up, and they are trying to find a solution. So they don't want to listen to some kind of gyan or do's and don'ts which they have been hearing for so many years. You have to offer them some new perspective, some new hope, and how it can be solved, and how the program can be structured. And not just 5 days में ये immunity बढ़ाएंगे, the 10 days में 10 kg घटाएंगे. What is this nonsense, right? So that is not being a proper nutritionist, holistic practitioner. Those are all quackery, right? People who are offering instant results and all this stuff. Okay, so second thing is being non-judgmental in your approach towards your patient. And the next and the most important aspect when it comes to, where is it? My God. Just give me a second. Right. Yeah. Right. So the next one, that is the last trait that we require as a holistic practitioner is the passion to make an impact, right? Why we are doing this particular job, why you choose to be a dietitian. So you have to be very clear about what you wanted to achieve. right? So why the job of a doctor is one of the most respected in the society? Because they have the capacity to alleviate the pain. Okay, but the job of a dietitian is equally important, but only thing is we don't realize it. If you want to make use of your 5 years of education, 3 years of graduation, 2 years of post graduation, your thesis work, your internship, and the passion to make an impact is strong enough, right? Then that is what makes you as a holistic practitioner. So you need to have your purpose very clear, written or expressed very clear. I am here to help people who are suffering with lifestyle diseases or their health problems. So if you have, you need to have that strong will or zeal in order to succeed as a holistic practitioner. So this is like the second segment after the difference between clinical nutrition and holistic nutrition. The second one is what it takes to be a holistic practitioner. So let me repeat. The one is honest curiosity towards your patient's conditions. Second one is to be non-judgmental, and third one is to make an impact, passion to make an impact. So most of us assume that we measure our success by the amount of money we are making them, right? But if you think that by learning, upgrading your knowledge, by learning new skills, and by doing what it takes to become a perfect and the great nutritionist that you want to become, look at the amount of value you are creating for a patient. Okay, they may be paying you maybe 300 rupees or 500 or 1000 or 2000 rupees as a consultation fee. But imagine how much does it worth to bring down a patient who is having HbA1c 9. From there, if it is coming down to 6.3, zero medications. So they may be paying you maybe 2 or 3,000 rupees for entire program, or maybe at maximum 5,000 or 7,000. You may be receiving only monetarily those 5,000 to 6,000 rupees, but the impact you created is much more. So there is one simple principle in the universe: whatever goes around comes around. So you created that value and you are destined to receive that value. Okay, so you count your success, that how many lives did I impact, right? If that gives you happiness, that is what it requires to be a successful holistic practitioner. So this concludes our second session. So now I open it again for discussion. So yes, people, any questions in the second session? Any feedback? Anything you would like to share? In these three topics, what is being honestly curious and non-judgmental and passion to make an impact? Any questions on this? We are running out of time. We have only 15 minutes left and 2 more sessions to complete.
No, sir.
At least give me a feedback. I mean, does it make any sense? You agree, you disagree?
It's really clear, sir.
Yes,
I will agree, sir.
Yeah.
Very clear, sir.
Okay. So shall we go ahead and go to the
Yeah,
case
please.
study?
Yes.
Please,
yes.
please.
Sure, sir.
Okay. Right. So the art of history taking. So here we'll be discussing a case study, and this particular segment, I want all of you to open up and come up with your suggestions. Without your interaction, this will not go forward. Okay, you actively participate, because unless and otherwise you'll be wasting your time and my time. Okay, so now I am giving you a case, and I want you to ask as a dietitian and what your solution is going to be. Right? Be competitive and fight for your slot. So there is a 23-year-old female diabetic patient. Okay. Now ask your questions about this particular case and try to give a solution. Start.
How long she is diabetic?
Past 3 years.
Is there any family history?
No family history.
We'll ask her about a dietary pattern.
Okay. So
Was this
she
the gestational diabetes?
Any stress life?
What is she obese or normal body
Yeah.
weight she has?
No, you ask questions. I mean, straight away. Let's assume I am the 23-year-old female diabetic here. You ask me questions, right? What is your BMI? What do you eat?
Okay, so what is your BMI or and weight?
My BMI is 23.2.
Sorry, sir.
23.2.
Okay.
What is
BMI
your
is
weight and height?
Yeah.
Stress level, sir?
BMI is 23.2. Yeah.
Stress level.
Stress levels, yeah, pretty much high.
Water intake?
Water intake is fine.
Any physical activity?
Physical activity. I work in a what is this, auto showroom. Auto showroom means a showroom where they sell scooters and bikes. Hero, Bajaj.
Sleeping pattern.
When did you first know you were diabetic?
Sleeping hours?
3 years back,
Sleeping
I was diabetic.
Was
Do
this
you
a
have history of
gestational diabetes?
PCOD?
No PCOD. Periods are regular, normal.
Married or unmarried?
Married with a kid, 10 months old.
Was it a gestational diabetes? No, it's from 3 years.
No gestational diabetes.
Parents are also
Do you have
diabetic.
any other complication?
I don't have any other complications, but I used to faint sometimes. I mean, I fainted maybe 3 to 4 times in a year time when I was first diagnosed with diabetes.
Did you
Hypoglycemia.
have any other nutritional deficiencies?
Nutritional deficiency. Yeah, I have a bit of low B12, but for that I took injections.
Okay, you're vegetarian, non-vegetarian, sir?
Non-vegetarian.
Were you diabetic when you were pregnant?
Any history of gestational diabetes?
See, my baby is 10 months old. I'm diabetic for past 3 years. Yes.
Were you diabetic when? Okay, so
Yeah. So now you know everything about a
How much?
23-year-old married with 10 months
How
old.
about the sleep pattern? How many hours do you sleep?
Sleep is good. Sleep is good. I sleep comfortably between 6 to 7 hours. Deep sleep, no problems with the sleep at all.
baby is of 1 year. So any
10
breastfeeding or
months.
something?
10 months.
Breastfeeding? Are you feeding the baby?
Recently stopped.
Which medicines are you on? Insulin or any other medicine?
Insulin morning 16 units and evening 16 units.
On insulin. Okay. Is it type 1?
No, it is not. It is type 2.
Okay. And on insulin. No breastfeeding.
What are your sugar levels?
So right now with insulin, I'm able to manage, but the moment I was put on insulin, my sugars was fasting 280 and postprandial 320 something.
So what are your primary goals to approach us? So what do you want us to lead you?
I want to get rid of insulin.
Okay.
Is it only insulin or with other OHs as well?
Right now, and for past few months, I was on insulin. Earlier, I used to be on medication, but that was from a what do you say, RMP, rural medical practitioner without any degree. So this insulin was from an endocrinologist for past couple of months, 3 to 4 months.
So right now only insulin or
Only
is there?
insulin.
Okay. Any
Yeah.
Ayurvedic medicine do you take along with?
No.
As per your knowledge? Okay.
No.
And then would be the dietary intervention, sir.
Okay.
After the history taking.
No. See, I am 23-year-old female, mother of 10 years, child, diabetic, on insulin with BMI of 23.2, a typical South Indian Andhra. So on insulin 16 and 16 morning and evening, right? So you tell me what your plan for me is, what I should be doing. I don't have constipation. How is your digestive system is good? No sudden weight gain or weight loss. My BMI is 23.2 all through. How is your fasting blood sugar level? With insulin is now normal. Surya Deepti, what personal info do you need? Do you have time to take care of yourself? Or are you neglecting yourself? See, I have to, I don't have any time to take care of myself because I have a 10-year-old at home and I have to work to support my family. Were you anemic? Did you use medication for any other? During pregnancy, they prescribed some iron tablets. That's it. Understand what's on going on, please. What's problem are you? What problems? Yeah, right. So, come on, solution.
Are you taking timely meal?
Timely means eating itself is a luxury for us. So obviously, we'll be eating 3 times.
Are you taking care of insulin when after and before meal when you are taking insulin? Are you taking timing?
Before breakfast 16 units and before dinner 16 units.
The timing. Is there a proper gap between the insulin intake and your meal?
No. Just before taking my food, I take insulin.
So why do you want to get rid of insulin? What problem are you facing in taking insulin?
Because my sugar.
Are you monitoring it regularly?
And I don't want to take. My doctor prescribed me insulin. That's why I'm taking.
Are you monitoring regularly?
That will be an expensive affair for me. So I check maybe once in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. What else? What else do you need to solve this case?
How is your diet history?
Diet history, I wake up at around 5:30 or so, take care of my household activities. By 8:15, we have this in our street, they have this, what do you call, a small cart, right? 4 wheels cart where they sell this idli and dosa, right? So I take 4 idli from there and buy for every one of our family, and I go to work by 9 o'clock and I come home at 1 o'clock and have my rice with one or the other kind of curry and have 1 glass of buttermilk. And again, I go back to work after taking half an hour of rest. By 2 o'clock, again, I'm back in the office and I work till 8 o'clock in the shop. That is automobile. And once I come back, I have to cook. And then by 9, I'll have my dinner. Before that, so I take insulin. And by 9, I'll finish my dinner with rice and 1 curry. And no curd or buttermilk in the... Yeah, this is my eating habits.
Looking ahead, looks like there is erratic meal timings, and the placement of the meals are not right with the quantity and quality, of course. Also, it seems that there is lots of stress due to maybe work or family or kids. So there is a probing there wherein we need to understand on the scale of 1 to 10 how much is the stress level. So they can rate the stress levels and understand the main cause of diabetes or the high sugars, and why is it taking care of by insulin.
That's fine. You are able to explain the situation, but what the solution is? What is the solution?
So first I can add the balance. That means I can add protein in simple dal or anything.
Is that you?
Yes, sir.
Why are you
lacking in our diet?
Why are you answering, and why are you in this group? You are not.
First I understood that one.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, don't try to answer. And by the way, Padma is in the main course, so I'm not allowed to answer. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
She is lacking proteins in her diet.
She is lacking protein. No, that's fine. You took the history, whatever information you wanted to have, you had. Now, how do you propose the solution to this particular person?
The most important habits will be pulled out, and week by week it has been deeply monitored, and that's wherein we have to keep letting the person do it, implement it, and then take it further, rather than bombarding everything
Come
at
up
one
with
go.
concrete. See, the patient is right in front of you. This is the
But who is
23-year-old female.
diet counseling? You're asking to give a counseling session.
Tell me, what should I do?
Okay.
How are your relations with your husband and your family members?
My father is bedridden. My mother is a housemaid. She works in 3 to 4 houses as a housemaid. And my husband left me 11 months back, just before the birth of my baby. So pretty stressful. And I have a younger sister who is taking care of the baby. So her marriage is on the cards and I have to take care of her marriage. So personal life is pretty much
devastated.
Stressful, yeah. So think over it, right? Come up with a solution. We are supposed to discuss the case today itself, but we ran out of our time for today, and we'll continue our discussion tomorrow, right? It is 4:25. But next time, come up with a proper solution. What you are going to do and what are the questions? What else do you need? And to give you a perspective, once she came to me as a client, and I spoke to her 3 times. First time I took history, second follow-up I did, and by the third time she has come to me. She is free from insulin, right? Totally. And her sugars are normal. Within 3 weeks, she got rid of her insulin. And by the time she has come to me for the last time, she is off on insulin for 3 weeks. And her sugars are absolutely fine. She is not taking any medicine. There are no fainting spells. Okay. So that's what the case is all about. So how did I achieve it and how you plan to achieve it? That's what we'll discuss tomorrow. Okay. So we still have 4 more minutes to ask questions. So any one of you is interested
in her case, we need to apply the full holistic approach, where we have to take care of other aspects other than the diet. So that might help her to, to get rid of.
Go ahead. The patient is right before you. What else do you need? You ask me, I'll give you.
So I think tomorrow will be the right day to, to discuss further on this, because you already said that we are.
No, that's fine. I mean, is there anything and information you need? Tomorrow you are not allowed to ask any questions. See, whatever questions you have. So I'll open the WhatsApp group between 8 to 9 today.
Okay.
About the patient, whatever questions you want to ask, you can post all those questions in that WhatsApp group. Okay.
Okay.
Whatever queries you have.
Full course detail.
Huh?
Full course detail.
Full course details. I mean, you can contact me. My number is there on the WhatsApp, right?
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Your full course details. Those who are interested, you can get back to me. But about this particular patient, tomorrow we are going to discuss how did I deal with this particular case. I'll explain it in more detail. But if you think I need any details, yeah. You need any details, you can post that in our WhatsApp group. I'll open it for members to post between 8 to 9. Right? Just in case I forget, please remind me and I'll keep it in my mobile as well as a reminder to open the group. Don't hesitate to contact me. Yes, Myra Amzad, I'm sharing the link for attendance and for those people who need certificate for this course. I'm trying to give you an attendance sheet. Just finish that attendance sheet and we can close it for the day. Yeah. Did you, in the chat, can you see a form, Google form?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. So open it and try to fill it. Whatever name you want to be on your certificate, full name, and your registered mail ID, which you used for registration, and your WhatsApp number.
It's asking for permission.
I'm sorry?
It's need permission, it says.
Yeah.
Oh, you are unable to open this?
Yeah.
It is asking for permission.
Just give me a moment.
It says this form can only be viewed by users in the owner's organization.
Okay, I get it. Why did you? Just give me a second. I'll fix it. Yeah, just refresh it. Refresh the form.
Yeah, sir. Now I can able to.
Yeah, please. It will take only. Yeah, while you are filling up the form, anyone wanted to ask any questions regarding this particular case, you can ask me in person. Yeah, I changed the permission settings, Nidhi and Priya. So you can open it now.
What time does she sleeps, sir? The case?
She sleeps around, I mean, immediately. I mean, I've been working, waking up at 5, so I had to sleep immediately after my food. Maybe 9:30, 10. I had to get up at 5, 5:30. So.
Her behavior, how she follow everything.
Behavior in the sense, what do you want to know?
I think she is mentally stressed.
Her? What? What is your question? What do you want to know about me? So we have around 50 people, at 26 people responded. We need 27. Yeah, those who have completed the form, you may leave. And once I have all the people fill up the form, I'll close it. Yeah, meanwhile, any question? I mean, somebody was asking about the behavior. What exactly is your question? What do you want to know about me? Sandhya Rani, you are using your phone, but even from phone, you should be able to open. In the chat box. So I'll be sending you again. Sandhya Rani. Yeah, I shared it again. Just check, Sandhya. Myra Amjad, thank you. Hemani, thank you so much. Mariam Chaudhary, thank you. Thank you so much. Payal Jori, thank you so much.
So what type of extra activities she like to do that?
See, I wake up at 5:30. I have to take care of my household activities and things that I need to take care, because I had to cook for my parents My father is bedridden. My mother goes out early in the morning to work in other houses. So I had to prepare for food for my kid, my sister, my father who is bedridden, all of those things. And by the time 8, I get food from outside, which is readily available, idli, dosa, whatever it is. And by 9, I have to go. From 9 o'clock onwards, because I am the floor supervisor over there in the shop where they sell the bike showroom where I work. So most of the time I am physically active, right? Moving all around. So I get rest for half an hour. Once I reach home, I have my lunch, I take 30 minutes rest, and again I have to run back to the shop. From 2 to 8, again I have to work. Okay. And again, after coming back, I have to cook, get fresh, eat, and sleep. That's it. This is my lifestyle. So where do I get time to do any kind of physical activity? Megapal, Anjali, thank you. Aarti Singh, thank you so much. Alfana, thank you. Aruna. Aruna, you attended? I didn't see. How many of you stole into this class? Who else are there? Aruna is one, Padma is one. Who else from the main course? Anyone come online?
Sir, I am from the course.
Ah, Haripriya, you are also here.
Yeah.
I specifically asked you not to attend. Okay, give chance
That's
to
why sir, that's why I'm quiet and I'm not answering the questions. Otherwise, I would have given at least some answer by now.
Yeah, you would have taken the fun out of these participants.
But one thing I want to tell, sir, all the new joinees, you can pat your backs because today you have taken a wonderful decision of being associated with Dr. Suresh, a wonderful human being, a wonderful teacher, and I'm becoming his fan every day. And really, and you are not going to be disappointed at all. And you're going to gain a great learning from a different perspective. And it's like just Sonepe Suhaga, though you're all practicing dietitians, this thing will be really icing on the cake for you. And so welcome and take back great learnings and all the best. And I have joined the main course without eating my starter. So I came back to eat my starter again in this group. That's what I want to say. Okay. So all the best, guys. And we are all going to rock it, and we are all going to earn a lot of money in the future and replace all the doctors. Okay. Good luck. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Haripriya. Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
so nice. All right. Those who are done with your attendance may leave. And yeah, if anyone facing the problem, just let me know. All right. Thank you, everyone. I am signing off, and I'll keep the window open so that those who are yet to complete their form, they can complete it and then leave. Thank you. Have a good day and see you all tomorrow.